Hello again. Hello again. You are watching The Sweat. It is Monday. This show is going to be absolutely stuffed with fantasy and sports betting knowledge. First things first. Let me introduce me. I'm Emerson Lotzia. I'd like to overreact to Week 5 in the NFL with DraftKings contributors Reed Terrence Fowler on the desk, Jeff Mulrick on the internet. How are you, bud?
Good. Internet's good today. It's nice and toasty in here.
Yeah, where's the whiteboard?
I didn't have time for that today.
Oh,
it takes me
come
a while
on.
to pick up these things. So
See what you're good for, all right?
It is an art. Okay, guys, the Redskins schedule a meeting with Jay Gruden at 5 o'clock this morning and are like, surprise, you're fired AF. Bill Callahan, no relation to Tommy Callahan III, takes over on an interim basis. Washington, okay, 0-5 for the first time in 2 decades here, Fowler. Now the time to hand over the keys to rookie quarterback Dwayne Haskins, ? Jeff?
yeah, it's definitely time to hand over the keys to someone else. I mean, whatever the Redskins have been doing so far hasn't been working. There's really no reason not to see what you have in Dwayne Haskins at this point. I mean, just from a fantasy perspective, I'd be ready to just say, you should probably be avoiding the Washington Redskins for the next couple weeks. Callahan, this Callahan fellow wants to apparently run the ball more because they weren't doing that much because that was the problem with Washington.
Yeah, I saw your tweet. This dude's like super old school, huh?
Yeah, so I mean, we can expect more of 34 whatever-year-old Adrian Peterson. I don't know. Maybe they're going to get back in their DeLorean and try and mess it up that way. But look, the thing is, they're playing the Redskins this week. And if Haskins gets the start, really it almost doesn't matter who gets the start. Terry McLaurin is still going to be in play against the defense like that. And look, I make jokes about Adrian Peterson, but if Adrian Peterson is seriously going to get 25 touches against the Miami Dolphins, who are allowing like 200-yard rushers per week, you got to think about it, at least for DFS for a week. So we could get like a dead cat bounce here on some of the Redskins players, McLaurin and Peterson, at least for 1 week here against such an awful Dolphins team.
Reed, would you like to say something?
Yeah, Jeff just misspoke there, and Washington was going against themselves, which they still probably lose that game.
Right.
No, they get Miami. So if there is a chance to play any Washington player, it's Adrian Peterson, the last chance of the entire season to play Adrian Peterson against Miami Dolphins because they're atrocious against the run, and just as a football team, holistically, they're really bad. But Callahan, and to Jeff's point, like he mentioned it, like he wants to run the ball. He looked, and we're paraphrasing here, he looked at the stats and he said, at the rush attempts, and said he hasn't seen a football team run this least amount of like this amount of time, and it was really, really bad. He wants to run the ball more. And again, if that's the case, why put Dwayne Haskins out there? He's not going to be ready. This team, in terms of total defense, offense, scoring opportunity, red zone attempts, what have you, every statistical category, this team is bottom 3. So, I mean, you take a look at just where this team is going this year. There's nothing there. I get getting him reps, but you took him in the first round. Don't ruin your franchise quarterback with no talent on this team, except for his college teammate.
We've got a viewer on YouTube who's extremely excited about Redskins stacks.
Yeah.
All day, baby. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Okay, Will Fuller with a monster game against the Falcons, 3 touchdowns, 56.7 fantasy points. That's the third most single game point total in DraftKings history. And we've been around for like 200 years. Is he now a must-play every week? And dare I say, Fowler, we're going to start considering fading DeAndre Hopkins?
Shut your mouth when you're talking to me. You shut your mouth. No way. You're never fading DeAndre Hopkins. Now, look, we've seen this before. We've seen DeAndre Hopkins have these games, mainly with Brock Osweiler at the helm, have these games where he was wide receiver 36 at the end. And it's just sometimes those things don't get going. But we've seen both of these guys, especially with Deshaun Watson, have fantasy viable weeks. Look at Will Fuller. In the first 7 games of his rookie season, or last year, he had a touchdown in his first 7 receptions. And so when you look at just the ability, and this kind of goes to what all of us were saying and beating this drum last week at that Atlanta team, the Texans, and then Fuller specifically, is not going to play the Falcons every single week. You're playing DeAndre Hopkins. If you look over his last 9 fantasy points per game, it's still over 20 points. If you look over his last 12 games, it's 19.4 fantasy points per game. This is the guy. It's going to come. It's happened with these other wide receiver ones that we've seen go off. Mike Thomas, for instance. It's going to happen with Hopkins. He's just too good to bench and say that Will Fuller is better than him.
Oh, man, Jeff, maybe the juice isn't worth the squeeze here.
Come to me, DeAndre Hopkins. Come to Jeff.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
I'm sending out all the trade offers for DeAndre Hopkins this week. Fire him up in DFS. No one wants to play DeAndre Hopkins now. I'll play him. I mean, give me a break. He's still leading the team in red zone targets and just overall targets. Yes, he had a bit of a slow week last week, but Atlanta basically made a conscious decision to say, we're not going to let DeAndre Hopkins beat us, so we just won't cover anyone else. And Phil Fuller just literally caught every ball. I mean, that's what happened if you watch the game. I just don't even understand what Atlanta was doing from a coverage perspective. They literally were just making sure one person didn't beat them and forgot about everyone else. So Will Fuller definitely still going to be in play. I mean, this is why we target guys like Will Fuller in DFS and why a lot of people liked him last week. He's got the boomer bust mentality. I mean, it wasn't just one big play last week. He actually got the volume, but he's not going to out-target DeAndre Hopkins every week. In fact, it might be the only week he actually out-targets DeAndre Hopkins for the rest of the year. So coming up, especially next week, in just a plus matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs, which should be a really high-scoring affair. Expect the ball to roll back into DeAndre Hopkins' favor eventually. Now, maybe he doesn't get the insane split between those two that we saw like a couple seasons ago, but I'm not worried about DeAndre Hopkins the rest of the year. Not even close.
Okay, well, Oakland beats Chicago in London. Josh Jacobs has a huge game with 32 DK points.
Yeah.
The rookie running back. Is he a guy you've got to start rostering week in and week out here, Ulrich?
I mean, again, first of all, shout out to the Raiders. They're 3-2.
There we go, baby.
Oh,
There we go.
Congrats,
win.
man.
I mean, everyone likes to make fun of John Gruden, but I'm an equal opportunity guy. I like to give shout outs when teams do well, too. I mean, I wouldn't say they won the Khalil Mack trade, but they didn't make out as bad as people think. They have a very, very solid O-line, and that's why Josh Jacobs is going to have some value going into the rest of the year. The problem with Jacobs, and especially from a DFS perspective, he's not necessarily like a guy who's isn't going to be affected by game flow. What I mean by that is there are certain situations where Josh Jacobs is probably going to take a seat to Jalen Richard or Dwayne Washington just because Oakland isn't pass heavy ball. But they got that good O-line. They're definitely going to try and run this guy as much as possible. And he's shown he can definitely do it behind this O-line, obviously putting up a massive game against essentially like a top 3 run defense. So definitely viable the rest of the year. Not a must play. You're going to have to pick and choose your spots because there are, like I said, there's going to be spots where he doesn't play as much. But in spots where the Raiders get out to a good lead, they can really just drive home Jacobs. Yeah, he's going to have more big days like those, I think.
Jeff, would you trade Josh Jacobs for Cooper Kupp straight up in season long?
I mean, if I'm getting Kupp in return, I would do that, yes.
Okay, no. So if the shoe was on the other foot here, you would shut that trade down. Okay, great.
I would not be trading Cooper Kupp.
Okay, go ahead. Your thoughts on Josh Jacobs? You got to roster him week in and week out here, bud?
Oh, that's a viewer question, I bet, huh, Mr. Lotzia?
No, that was from Stephanie French Fry.
Got it. No, look, when you talk about Josh Jacobs, Jeff made the point, he's game script. And when you look at season long or just DFS in general, like we looked at Jacobs as a 3-down back coming into this season as a rookie, really used right in the pass game. I mean, yes, he didn't have the huge amount of volume in Alabama going to college or going back to his college days, but he was a guy that we really penciled in for that. And look at his last 2 games where really they outplayed what we anticipated against the Colts and then against the Bears, where Jacobs saw 54% of the snaps and then 68% of the snaps. So he didn't really get over that 70% threshold that we like to see from these backs, like a Marlon Mack, for instance. Even though he's in a 3-headed split in that backfield, he's getting the majority of those snaps, and that's just not Josh Jacobs. And when we get into these game scripts, we don't know. He's not a must-start. Now, he really outperformed what he did in Chicago, and that's really a misnomer because both teams, especially Chicago, came to London later in the week. The Raiders got there a little bit early. Could have been a trap game. We all thought that the Colts was a trap game for the Raiders. They won that, and then they win this one. Now they go into that bye, and so he's not a must-start, but he's definitely a start that if there is a tiebreaker against a bad defense or a good defense, that you would give them a nod because of where you drafted him in season long.
Okay, I got one more for you guys. Kansas City exposed on Sunday Night Football, losing at home to the Colts.
Yep.
2-part question here, Jeff. I'll start with you again. Are the Chiefs not as good as we thought they were? And is Marlon Mack better than we thought he was?
I mean, it's not that the Chiefs aren't good.
Oh.
It's just that there is a game plan out there to beat them. And we saw it last year in the playoffs with Bill Belichick, right? And the Colts essentially did what the Patriots did to the Chiefs last year in the playoffs. They ran the ball effectively. They kept Patrick Mahomes off the field. They played really solid man coverage, and they just shut down some of those big plays. So that's how you beat the Colts, or that's how you beat the Chiefs, excuse me. The Colts were able to execute that similar game plan. As far as Marlon Mack goes, he's a little bit similar to Josh Jacobs in that he seems to be really game flow dependent. When the Colts get out like they did last night, and they're able to sort of keep the other offense on the field and run the ball effectively, yeah, he's really good. He's a lot better than people do give him credit for, I do think. But in DFS, he's not necessarily like a high PPR back, which gives him a lower floor than a lot of the other main carry backs. So again, he's someone you're going to target, more of a boom or bust play in certain situations, but definitely a better player than I do think most people give him credit for.
It's really sportsy and like football talk here, but they just chewed up the stinking clock last night,
They did, man. They good words there. Really good use of
terminology.
I
watched
and
it,
phrases.
and that game was fantastic.
Smash mouth football.
Smash mouth football, not exotic smash mouth, which actually is a good segue because if you look at Marlon Mack, he's kind of like the rich man's Derrick Henry in a lot of ways, right?
Yes,
just bring it all around. He is a game script type of running back. But if you look back at Patrick Mahomes, now he's 2-6 in primetime games. We see the stat. We see these guys talk about how the Chiefs, and then Mahomes specifically, has played in primetime 2-6. He's 1-4 now, trailing at halftime. So it looks like these guys, and the Chiefs, especially with Patrick Mahomes, is a guy who likes to play out in front. These guys said, look, Kansas City is not going anywhere. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback right now in the NFL. Russell Wilson is doing his best part to try and take him off or dethrone him, and Brady is still doing his Brady thing. But Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes are not in trouble. And Marlon Mack, again, you see what happened with Marlon Mack and the running back stable there with Nyheim Hines getting the passing down, and even Wilkins getting the red zone targets. That scares you, or the red zone attempts. That scares you a little bit with Marlon Mack, because if that game script does switch, you could see a Wilkins and Hines double-headed monster if, for whatever reason, some of these injuries, these lower extremity injuries, do flare up for Mack. So he's good. If you want to trade him high right now, you can't really, because he's on a bye. So I don't know many teams that are out there trying to acquire a guy on a bye, but he's a game script guy that gets a lot of attempts.
So you said Marlon Mack is a rich man's Derrick Henry?
Yeah.
Does that mean that Marlon Mack is a poor man's Derrick Henry?
Yes.
Or is Derrick Henry a poor man's Marlon Mack?
Yeah, there it is.
Oh my God, that really hurt. That really hurt my brain.
He's
dude.
a better version of Derrick Henry there.
Thank you. All right, always explain it to me like I'm 5, please. You two little love muffins. Let's talk golf next, okay? But first, let's listen to Panel B gossip about Monday Night Football.
Hey, I'm Carolyn Azek here, and it's that time for your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Kyle Lowry was set to become a free agent after this season, but the Toronto Raptors changed that as they agreed to a 1-year, $31 million extension. The star guard enters his 8th season with the franchise and is the team's longest tenured member. Let's be serious here. The Raptors didn't want to take a chance on another star walking out the door like Kawhi Leonard. Lowry played a vital role in the Raptors' championship run. The 33-year-old averaged 14.2 points and 8.7 assists per game. The 5-time All-Star is one of the most productive players on the Raptors squad and has said he wants to finish his career in Toronto, and this deal keeps him in the 6 until at least the end of the 2021 season. Toronto maintains a good core to defend their championship title. They have Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol, who are on expiring contracts this season. They also have Pascal Siakam, who is negotiating a possible rookie extension. While Lowry's status for the preseason remains unclear as he is still recovering from his thumb injury, Toronto hopes to see him for opening day against Zion Williamson in the New Orleans Pelicans on October 23rd.
Browns +5 on the road against the 49ers, one of the few undefeated teams left. Feels like they haven't even played this season. I don't think I've actually seen
it's a weird spot.
clip.
Like we haven't even seen them in like 2 weeks.
On the other hand, we've seen the Browns a ton. We've seen them. They're always in prime time, either playing. They lambasted the Jets, then they got had the draw on 4th and 9 against the Rams. They rebounded well against the Ravens, so +5 for the Browns. My inflection probably gave you a thought of how I'm leading there, but who wants to start us off here?
The problem is that the 49ers haven't played anybody.
Right.
They played the Buccaneers, the Bengals, and the Steelers. So
and the Buccaneers, I mean,
there's no team that goes back and forth like the Bucs.
Exactly.
Like they win a huge game in LA, they've been going back and forth the entire season.
So I would say this is probably their toughest matchup to date.
Yeah.
Who they're facing today. So I feel like this is kind of, we'll get a better grasp of, what they look like, because defensively they've been incredible. Like, this is a team that couldn't generate a turnover to save their lives.
Right.
And now they've done so on a number of occasions so far already. So it's just, it's hard to gauge where they're at because, like we said, we haven't seen them play. They've only played 3 games up to this point. So it's tough to get a gauge of where they're at. But getting 5 points for the Browns, I feel like, is the bet to make here. If you got to play some money down on this game, that just feels like enough. I think we saw enough from the Browns last week to feel that they're starting to get into at least some type of groove than whatever shambles they were in during the first 2 weeks. But it's kind of a tough game to gauge, at least for me right now.
Yeah, I think the groove is feed Nick Chubb, play off that.
I'm not feeling it's that tough. I like the talent here in the Browns, and I'm going to keep saying that the Ravens are overrated because they are, but the Browns still convincingly defeated them in Baltimore. Yeah. And again, we just haven't seen that much of the 49ers. The 49ers have come off the bye week, so they've had more time to prepare, but at the same time, are they hearing a little bit too much in their ears, like, wow, you're only other undefeated team now outside of the Patriots now that the Chiefs have gone down? Do they think too much of themselves because they were able to pick off Jameis Winston twice, beat Andy Dalton, and beat Mason Rudolph in his first start? Like, if you're going to get too high on yourself after doing those things, you're going to come crashing down. And the Browns have the talent. They've taken some ugly defeats this year and are trying to work their way back from it. I think the Browns can win this game, so that's why I would probably take. Yeah. And they're plus 200. Wow. I would probably take whatever you're going to bet in this game and split it in half and put half on plus 5, half on the plus 200 money line, and see where that takes you.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't really know if they are getting that high and mighty. Haven't really seen much. I haven't just seen any.
Right,
like,
you don't hear
49ers
anything. Like, what are they doing
at all? They're chilling out in that stadium that's miles away from the city they're named after.
Okay, before we turn the page to Monday Night Football prop bets, let's see what Reed and Jeff have to say about the Houston Open and if they think odds for the following golfers should be better or worse, which is why we're calling this segment for better or worse. Do we have that fancy animation? I always love seeing it. It's like
Doesn't look like
it's like
it.
the bride and groom at the altar, and then there's a bird that drops a deuce on, I believe, the groom.
I finally figured out the pun, and now they've lost the graphic.
Yeah.
Jeff just figured it out 2 weeks ago.
You see what happens when Matt Cody's not here? This is great. Reed, Henrik Stenson, the favorite at plus 1,100. Should his odds be better or worse?
No, they should be right where they're at because he's the highest ranked golfer, I believe, in this field at 37 overall. And so it kind of gives you an idea who's playing at this course.
Some big names in this tournament.
No, there's not a lot. Jason Kokrak also withdrew. He was one of my favorites coming into this tournament. But if you just take a look at what he's done since 2015, he's 4th in strokes gained total. He's a guy that really gets the ball in the shortstop. He hits 3-wood off the tee. Even though this is a longer course, over 7,400 yards, it doesn't play that long. And this will be interesting because this is the first time, and we talked about this, Emerson, before.
Yeah, we did.
First time it's not right before the Masters in April. So we'll see how the schedule change goes in terms of when it's played in the calendar year. But at this price tag, you can go with Stenson if you want at plus 1,100. But in this type of tournament, especially in the swing season, go with guys that have better odds.
Jeffrey's got a pretty good track record here.
Yeah, the odds are definitely deserved. I could even see Henrik Stenson being in the single digits for odds like plus 800 or plus 900, just given the crappiness of this field. I mean, whenever Jason Kokrak withdraws and that leaves like a big hole at the top, the field is kind of weak, and it really is this week. So this course sets up really well for Henrik Stenson. It's probably why he's playing it. There's a lot of water. It's a little bit similar in regards to kind of some of those Florida courses we see on the Florida swing. Lots of water, Bermuda greens. High green and regulation players have had a lot of success here, and that is what Henrik Stenson is. Not so much about power off the tee, although it's a little bit longer golf course, like Reed said. So more than deserving to be the favorite. These odds are fine. I don't even. I'm almost thinking about betting Henrik Stenson personally, just because this field is so weak, and I feel like he's here for a reason. But what's that?
I just got excited that you're going to bet Stinson at
I'm thinking about it, but we'll see.
Okay, that means no.
A little bit more bigger odds, but yeah, deserving favorite. There's not much else to say. There's no one else at the top of this field.
Jeff, what about Cameron Champ, dude? Plus 2,000. Should that be better or worse as odds?
Yeah, I mean, look, Cameron Champ is talented enough, and again, just you look at this field, you're like, well, why is Cameron Champ plus 20, plus 2,000? But like you start to look down, you're like, okay. I mean, this guy was first in strokes gained tee to green. His last stop, he was obviously hitting the ball well. Whenever you're ranking first in strokes gained tee to green, your last start. So you think it's pretty logical that he could come in here, hit a ton of greens, and maybe nab another win. Definitely talented enough to. I just feel like with Cameron Champ, we saw him after his other win just go through that long slump, not really get back. It's plus 2,000. It's just a little bit too short. I think if it was more plus 3 or plus 3,500, I'd probably be more willing to take a shot on him doing this. But I just think it's too short for a still young player who hasn't quite shown that he's capable of just coming out here and dominating like for a month straight. So until I see that, I'm fine laying off Champ with these odds.
I'm looking at his statistics there on the side of the screen. Reed, he's coming up a miscut here in Vegas.
No, yeah, I agree with Jeff. Is this going to happen twice in a span of 3 weeks? And, he's going through some personal stuff as well. I mean, that, usually has, either a positive or negative bearing. For him, it was positive because he won, right? And so when you just look at what he's going to do, if there is a point at where Cameron Champ does win, it's during the swing season, right? Because he kind of goes away during the regular season, and then next time when the swing season comes around, it's Cameron Champ because of that talent of what he's been able to do. But this is not going to happen twice in the span of 3 weeks. I don't think so. There's other guys. And look, Jeff mentioned it too. If he's at plus 3,000 or 3,500, he's by like Danny McCarthy, Russell Knox. There's no way that he's going to be his talent surpasses those guys 10 times over. And so there's no way that he's going to be at that number. And so that value is just bad.
That's right. That was about his grandfather,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
Who was battling cancer?
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a good story. That's when he got on the cell phone with him, like right after
And
he
his
had that
dad,
final
yeah.
putt.
Very, very emotional.
That was emotional as hell, man, for sure. Keegan Bradley, plus 4,000. Reed, better or worse?
I think these should be better, and that's weird for Keegan, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
is weird.
It's really good for us. I actually like Keegan a lot this week at 4,000. I talked about the other guys that are at this. Like Kyle Stanley, who I believe was at plus 12,500 last week, now is at plus 3,500. So that's a huge swing for a guy like Kyle Stanley. And now we get Keegan Bradley, a major winner, obviously, at this number. And we know Keegan's Achilles heel. He can't putt. He's one of the worst putters, especially on Bermuda greens.
Good.
Over the last 50 rounds, he's like 130-something in terms of.
Tell Reed so far.
How can you be so bad at putting?
But tee to green, he's top 6, Jeff. When you have windy conditions in Houston, that's what you have at this course. This guy potentially can do that. Yes, he doesn't have necessarily the win equity as a guy like Henrik Stenson. That's why his numbers here at plus 4,000. He might be a better first-round leader bet because he likes to get out in front really early. But this is not that bad, really.
Jeffrey, I would like to say he's played 8 rounds this year. 7 of them have been 70 or better.
Oh.
Ow!
Wow. That is some high-level stuff. Reed is right in the sense that, like, for this field, Keegan Bradley at plus 4, he's the second highest ranked golfer in this field from the world golf rankings. He's only a few spots behind Henrik Stenson right now. So, him being at plus 4,000, it's decent enough odds to take a shot on for sure. He's got a good record at this event too. He's like a poor man's version of Henrik Stenson. He hits a ton of greens. He's just a worse putter, and he's a little less accurate off the tee. So, I mean, it makes sense that he would have some success here too. He's had some success at those Florida courses with Bermuda greens that I mentioned in the past. Reed is dead on in saying he's a horrible putter. And the one event he putted really well out this last season was the Travelers, and he almost won it. Almost caught Ches Reavie there at the end. So he can do it. He's got 1 win in like the last 7 years. So I'm not really expecting him to get over the hump. I think he's a better DFS play as well this week. But these are fair enough odds. I will say this. Harris English at plus 4,000. I mentioned him a few weeks back. Right now, the way his game is clicking, he's a far better putter, and I think he's a far better bet at these odds. So Harris English for me at
on DK Sportsbook, Harris English, really good bet there, plus 5,500.
Oh,
so.
He's plus 5,500
Yeah.
on DK Sportsbook. I like that way more.
Do that.
One more here. Last year's runner-up, Bo Hostler, plus 5,000. What do you think here, Jeff? Should his odds be better or worse?
They should probably be worse. I mean, this is just basically going off the course history from 2 years ago, or it was a year and a half ago, when Bo Hostler lost in the playoff tee and Boulder. Got really unlucky, by the way. He had a putt, like 360 that would have won it. But Yeah, this is just a young player who's really inconsistent. He putted really well that week back in Houston. He is from Houston, so he's got that local advantage. But for me to take a shot at Bo Hosler, I'd need nearly double this, to be honest. He's just not, tee to green, he's just not consistent enough right now. He hasn't shown that through his past few starts. So.
You got to double these odds here in order for you to put down some money on them?
Maybe increase them by 25%. Quick math, what is that?
Oh, hold on a second.
No, it's plus 7,500.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, we're confusing
an hour-long show, Reed.
Damn it, Reed.
We're confusing Emerson with all these rich man, poor man quotes and whatnot. But look, no, great putters, right? I mean, you can easily, these can swing. And that's why Bo Hosler can come in second at Houston and some of these shorter courses that you can putt well. And he's 17th over the last 50 rounds in showstake putting in Bermuda. The same with Sam Burns. I mean, if you want to attack a solid putter, Sam Burns is the guy at plus 11,000 here, just because of what he can do. His ball striking is terrible, Sam Burns that is. So if you want to attack a putter, and we talked about other guys in that price range, that Harris English is there. Bronson Burgoon is another bet that I really like at this same number as opposed to the runner-up last year.
Okay, Jeff, have a great afternoon today. We'll see you later. Reed.
I'll miss you guys.
I always miss you.
Bring that whiteboard back.
Yes, you do. Yeah, have the whiteboard back for tomorrow, please. Okay. Reed, please be quiet. Reed, you are back to run through some Monday Night Football prop bets with Ben Zweiman's here in studio after Who'd I Miss On with Adam Levitan.
Hey, I'm Carolyn Ezek, and this is Who'd I Miss On with Adam Levitan. Each week, we recap Levitan's near misses from the NFL Sunday main slate. Will Fuller went off for the Texans yesterday against the Falcons, but unfortunately for you, that means Kiki Cutie did not. Just 10.20 DK points. So was it just that you weren't on the right Texans wide receiver who wasn't named DeAndre Hopkins?
Yeah, I was actually on Will Fuller too, so I ended up playing both Will Fuller and Kiki Kute, and I thought with Kenny Stills out that Kute would play an every down role in the slot. That's the role he previously had last year when he was healthy. That was the role he had before Kenny Stills got hurt. Turned out that the Texans decided to go with a lot of 2 tight end sets, Jordan Akins, Darren Fells, which surprised me a bit, and Kute really only ended up playing less than half the snaps. So definitely a disappointing game for Kute, especially considering Kenny Stills was out.
A pedestrian day for Carson Wentz with just 12.06 DK points against the Jets. Philly easily handled New York, and it was the defense that did most of the damage with 2 defensive touchdowns. So was it just a case of Wentz not needing to do a lot?
Yeah, I think the risk anytime you play a quarterback like Wentz in a spot like he is against the Jets, who have Luke Falk at quarterback and are just so decimated on the defensive line, on the offensive line, that the Eagles can win any way they want. They can score defensive touchdowns. They can run the ball in, et cetera, et cetera. And then you get into this situation where Carson Wentz finishes the game with under 25 attempts or whatever he ended up with. So yeah, obviously we want to have players in shootouts. I thought Matt Ryan was slightly better than Carson Wentz, but still ended up playing a bunch of Carson Wentz in tournaments and turned out to be a bad move.
And finally, Michael Thomas of the Saints was someone that had a huge day, but you just weren't on him. Thomas with 11 catches for 182 yards and 2 touchdowns, totaling 44.2 DK points. Was this more about your trust in Teddy Bridgewater than it was fading Thomas?
Yeah, this was a tough one. Michael Thomas is a player who, even with Drew Brees, he doesn't typically go deep down the field. He typically doesn't make huge splash plays. So I thought with Teddy Bridgewater in there, the ceiling was just capped to a lot of 5, 6 yard, 7 yard passes. And I still thought that Michael Thomas was in play at 6,600 just because he's so likely to catch 8 balls for 80 yards, etc. What I did not see was Teddy Bridgewater having an explosive game and Tampa continuing to sell out to stop the run, which really, really hurts. So yeah, that was a bad one to not be on Michael Thomas.
That's who Adam Levitan missed on in Week 5. You can find his coverage on DK Live, the DK Playbook, and on Twitter at Adam Levitan. We'll catch you next Monday to see who he missed on in Week 6.
Everyone, keep it together. Keep it together, damn it. Now to a dream I've had since lunch. We have Reed T. Fowler and Ben Zweiman together with me inside the same room, taking a gander at some Monday Night Football prop bets available on DK Sportsbook.
Yep.
Have we seen Ben yet on camera, or is it in focus?
There we
It looks a little soft,
guys,
right?
how's it going?
I can fix that here in a second.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, Jarvis Landry hasn't caught a touchdown this season. Whoa. So he's plus 1,500 to pull one in tonight against the 49ers. How much do you like these odds for the Browns wide receiver? Benjamin.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he hasn't caught a touchdown pass this season. Last season, he only had 4 touchdowns, so that's not very great. And the game script doesn't really play too much in his favor. I think the Browns are going to want to run the ball a lot, so you're going to see Nick Chubb get the ball at least 20 to 25 times. If they're going to play around 60, 65 offensive snaps, then that's a third of them. Landry will get targets. He's not a bad fantasy option, but I really don't see him getting into the end zone. He's not a home run hitter, so maybe if he breaks one, that's really the only way. He may get some red zone targets, but I still think Ricky Seals-Jones and Nick Chubb will get the majority of those targets in the red zone. And yeah, I mean, I think OBJ is a more likely bet to break a touchdown. He's also on primetime OBJ. We know what he's capable of. So yeah, I'm not crazy about Landry's odds there.
You're making motions with your hands here. It seems like you're in agreement.
Well, can we say Jarvis Landry is the poor man's OBJ, Emerson?
I would say he's a rich man's OBJ.
You're a little confused here. No, look, these odds, and I think Ben and I were talking about them. For 2 TDs, I think it's plus 245 for Jarvis Landry here. Again, I actually like this. I actually like this to get because I think there's some positive TD regression coming for a guy like Jarvis Landry. He's still seeing 25% of target share. And so you like that. Yes, he has to get those short, or he is getting targeted in those short to immediate. He's got about an A dot of about 10.4 yards currently. But I think this is coming. Like, he was never a guy in Miami who had a ton of touchdowns, but we saw that last season out of Miami. And even last year, too, that touchdown percentage did go up with Jarvis. The target's going to be there, and the yards after the catch, what Zweig was mentioning there, he's got 43 yards after the catch per game. If he gets one of those quick slants, either one of them really, with OBJ or Jarvis, I just like those odds with Jarvis a little bit better. OBJ is clearly the better player in primetime, but Jarvis at those plus 245 odds are pretty good. I like it.
Baker Mayfield's and Jimmy G virtually have identical passing yard projections. Yeah. Mayfield 259.5, Garoppolo 260.5. Who do you like to go over here, Reed?
This one's tough. I think this is a close one. And if you just look at both of these teams and how they want to operate, Ben mentioned it. If you look at just Cleveland and their offensive line, not that good. Nick Chubb, really good last week, or last time they played against Baltimore. If I had to guess, it's going to be Baker Mayfield at this number. I just think when you look at the run play percentage and how San Francisco wants to play the game, it's their defense and it's the running backs. Yes, Jimmy Garoppolo has shown the ability to have a high-powered offense or throw it a bunch, but I just don't think when you look at what Baker might have to do against this defensive line that's really good and against an offensive line in Cleveland that's been pretty suspect as of late, I still think when you have the talent on the Cleveland side with Baker, they're going to have to be passing. And so as 5-point underdogs on the road, I think you're going to have to pass, and so give me Baker in this one.
Okay, who goes over, Ben?
I think both have a decent shot at going over, but I'm not crazy about Mayfield. The 49ers secondary's played very well. Baker, like Reed mentioned, Cleveland's offensive line is very bad, so I think Baker's running for his life tonight. They're on the road. They're underdogs. Sure, they might have to pass a lot, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will translate. Jimmy G, on the other hand, Kyle Shanahan's had 2 weeks to prepare for a Cleveland defense that is middle of the pack, so I'd give the edge to Kyle Shanahan. I don't think they're going to look to run the ball too much. I think they're going to balance it out, and Jimmy G's gone over that total passing yards the past 2 weeks before the bye week. So yeah, I think both players are in a decent spot. I would lean Jimmy G. Maybe not so much. I'm not crazy about Baker Mayfield tonight. I think they're going to run the ball a lot. And yeah, I don't think Baker's been very good this season.
Wow.
Ooh, yeah. You guys are going to get into a more heated debate about that coming up with your Showdown
Baker's
picks.
not going to like that. He is watching.
Yeah, he is watching, actually. Millions around the world are watching. Yeah. George Kittle has the highest receiving total projection for 49er at 68.5. Over or under, Ben? I know how much you absolutely love this dude.
I do love Kittle. I think this is a Kittle week. Prime time. The Niners have been on bye. They got a lot of time to plan for the Browns. We saw what Delaney Walker was able to do to the Browns in week 1. George Kittle last season, though, 11 of the 16 games went over this total. So that percentage I like a lot. He's going to get a big percentage of those targets from Jimmy G. He's probably going to get somewhere in the 7 to 8 range. So I think his floor is really good. And again, it's not going to take a lot. Maybe like 1 or 2 of those plays, he just has to break for 30 yards, and you're looking at a pretty good shot of him going over that total. So yeah, I really love George Kittle tonight. I think he goes over, and it's not even close.
Do you agree with Ben?
Yeah. It's always interesting when you talk about tight ends and how it switches in the position. When you get a guy like George Kittle was saying, yeah, all he needs to do is break off a 30-yard catch and run, which is totally within the realm of possibility for how talented and athletic this guy is.
Historic season last year.
Yeah, exactly. And it was all yards-based, right? I mean, the touchdown progression wasn't there, or the percentage wasn't there. And if you just look at who he's going to be guarded or who's going to guard against Kittle, it's Jermaine Whitehead. And if we take out that Ravens game where he had a pretty good passer rating against at 33.3, he's given up an average of 102 to the quarterbacks when he gets targeted. And if Kittle is that guy, and Kittle is going to be a lot bigger and it's going to be a mismatch, yeah, I think he hits the over here.
Man, you guys are filled with a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, man.
Reed, the game total, it's at 47.5 here. But the 49ers are averaging 32 points per game. So are we headed for like an easy over here? Are we going to hammer this?
I don't know if we're going to hammer it.
Oh, really? Why not?
I just think San Francisco as a 5-point favorite at home. They're going to want to run the ball. That's why I kind of like Baker a little bit more than Jimmy G in the passing categories. But at the same time, I think both of these teams, yes, you go in wanting to run the ball. Both of these teams, I don't know, but I can suspect that they want to run the ball and play behind their really good defense, or their defense if it tries to be really good in Cleveland's case. But
it has potential.
It has potential. A lot of injuries, but it has potential. And if you just look at what they're being able to do, and they're just on the Cleveland side and the talent that they have, I think they're going to be down. I think they're going to have to pass a lot. It's going to be the over.
Ben.
Yeah,
you expect a lot of running, right? So no?
I don't expect too much running. I think there obviously will be running involved. Like Nick Chubb is the best running back in this game. But yeah, this over-under is very tricky, right? The Niners are at home. They're coming off the bye. Like you said, they're averaging a lot of points, but they scored a lot of those points against very bad defenses, and it was earlier in the season. I think the Browns' defense is a little bit better, but they're also banged up in the secondary, which doesn't play too well. The Niners are sort of banged up in the secondary. They're without one of their top corners. So yeah, I mean, I could see this being a shootout. I would lean the over. I was sort of leaning the under before just to be a little bit contrarian. I could see a scenario where, again, the Niners get up a little bit. Maybe they try and run a little bit more, but I still like that passing game. I think Kyle Shanahan's the type of coach that's going to want to run the score up, right? Yeah, I think the over is the safer bet in this case, but I don't know. Maybe I'm fading this. I'm a little 50-50 here.
Wait, so okay. Wow, that was a really long answer where you said absolutely nothing.
Well, look at Shanahan in his very short career as a head coach is 0-2.
Things were said.
Shanahan 0-2 after coming off the bye with a margin of deficit of 15. Now, granted, these are different players. He didn't have Jimmy G in those cases. But like we talk about how good some guys like Andy Reid and these high-powered offenses are good after a bye week, and you get a lot of time to prepare. Shanahan is that sort of next wave of really good coaching. Let's just see if he can do it, because it's not a good track record so far.
Okay, need both of you to stay here in the studio, please. We're going to get your showdown picks for tonight coming up after I have a brief conversation. You're going to get a break, because I'm going to have a brief conversation about tonight's two-game hockey slate with Ben Zwyman, okay? Which follows another healthy dose of your favorite podcast. Go ahead, you can toss to it.
Panel B.
Sorry to do this, Bukes, but we got to start. I mean, can your Twins at least get a game here?
Ah, come on. What do we have to start with this for? Who cares?
Who cares? Because I think, I'll play Captain Hindsight here, and we talked about all the home runs that the Twins hit. Guess what? The Yankees hit one fewer in the regular season.
Mm-hmm. So what?
Both teams had to kind of pitch.
Couldn't be
or
enough.
At least hit their way out of it.
So what really threw a wrench in the whole thing was, and the Yankees, to their credit, did the smart thing, was they avoided Tanaka on the road.
Right.
So in my head, when I played this out, they beat the lefty Paxton, which did not happen. They probably lose to Severino at home, so they'll probably lose today. And then they get Tanaka at home, maybe Happ in 4 or Paxton again, and then whatever the hell happens in Game 5. That did not play out. So it does not look good right now.
Aaron Boone was not near head, unfortunately.
What has me a little, I'm not sure about, is Odorizzi, because he's been pretty good overall. Like, Odorizzi didn't have a bad season, but 11 home runs at home, 11 of his 16, which is not great. And then we've seen in the 2 games, the Twins just have nothing in that bullpen. Like, when you're relying on the names of, like, Tyler Duffy to get you through 3 innings, like, you're in trouble.
Well, don't even go to the bullpen. How about the fact they have an Uber driver starting Game 2? Like, you talk about teams that needed to make to address issues.
Some of us people have to do side hustles. You know what I mean?
I'm not.
True.
I'm not saying that to demean, his profession. I'm doing it to talk about the preparedness going into the postseason. No watch today. Humble, hooded sweatshirt.
Very humble.
Man of the people. Didn't shave. I'm with you, but come on.
No, I mean, I always knew going into this postseason that pitching was going to be their biggest flaw. Like, everybody knows that. But the offense has been good enough that it's overcome those issues. So going against a team like the Yankees, who, quite frankly, have had struggles in their rotation. Like, Paxton had a good end of the season, but he struggled most of the year. Tanaka's a total wild card. Mm-hmm. Severino's looked good, but he's only pitched a few starts so far. So at least for me, I felt like the Twins at least had the upper hand on the rotation. I didn't think it would turn into this massive cluster so quickly. And they're already in this 2-0 hole.
Good catch.
But, I had cluster the whole day. It was never even don't worry about that.
Veteran radio.
I don't think they're going to win this series, but
neither do I.
I'm emotionally and financially invested in this, so I would like them to win this series, but not looking great.
Hey, I'm Tara Lenizek here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Well, the New England Patriots win over the Washington Redskins on Sunday was the last straw for Washington's owners. They fired Jay Gruden very early this morning. They couldn't have just done it last night. Hey, Gruden, don't come in tomorrow. We won't be needing your services because of this embarrassing fifth loss. Thank you. There was a glimmer of hope for the Redskins as they allowed just one touchdown and 2 field goals going into halftime, trailing just 12-7, but in the second half, they folded. As we know, the Redskins aren't who they used to be 8 years ago. Even their fan base has turned into a visiting fan base. The offense looks inept with no weapons, and QB injuries are continuing to pile up. This time last year, the Redskins were 5-2, and now they can't even get a win. Yikes. Gruden becomes the 5th coach fired by owner Daniel Snyder. He lasted longer than any of his 6 other coaching hires. This was Gruden's 6th season and had a 35-49-1 record with the Redskins. But who is to blame here for the downfall of this organization? I mean, with Daniel Snyder, no coach has finished with a winning record. So what coach is going to want to risk their rep to work for Snyder? For now, the Redskins will move forward under interim coach Bill Callahan. Washington must now more than ever think about their future and what moves they have to make, especially looking to the 2020 draft. We'll see if this is a restart here for the Redskins to pull themselves out of this messy season.
Ooh, baby, it is time, to listen to Ben Zwyman answer questions about tonight's teeny tiny 2-game hockey slate. How are you, Ben?
I'm doing well. How are you, Emerson?
I'm doing great. Who are you rooting for in tonight's baseball game?
It might be the Yankees. I don't know.
Okay, great. Let's talk about hockey. Not many options to choose from here, but we're going to have you do it anyway. And another thrilling edition of NHL Opening Faceoff. And at center, Austin Matthews, Jack Eichel, Ryan O'Reilly, and Pierre-Luc Dubois. Wow, he is only $5,200. Who do you like as a DFS play and as a person?
I like Jack Eichel the most tonight. I think the Sabres are the chalk going against the Blue Jackets on the road. Joonas Korpisalo hasn't been good. He's in net. The Blue Jackets have allowed 11 goals in their first 2 games of the season. I'm not crazy about Austin Matthews tonight, paying up $8,000. That's a lot. Plus, they're taking on the defending champions. We may see Ryan O'Reilly matched up a lot with Austin Matthews. He's another guy on that list. So yeah, that's a really tough draw for Matthews. Ryan O'Reilly, I'm not crazy about, although that game has sneaky high goal potential, but Eichel has the best floor. He's going to get you to that 5+ bonus shots probably. He's got a high shot volume. He's been putting up extra points. Austin Matthews, sort of a center who's more of a goal scorer, not really a distributor. Also, Jack Eichel on that first power play. I like that stack the most. The Blue Jackets have given up 3 power play goals on 9 shorthanded opportunities so far this season, which isn't a great percentage. So yeah, I think Eichel's the best option. You're saving $500 there. And I don't really like paying down too much on the short slate. You only have so many options, so really you don't need to really worry about ownership percentage too much on a 2-game slate.
Real quick, you kind of touched on this next question I was going to have you hit on here before we get to wingers. Is just what is a strategy on such a small slate? You do spend up, right? Like, act like you're rich.
Yeah, you kind of have to go with the chalk. I like the Sabres a lot as the chalk. The Leafs will be very chalky tonight. But those are the teams that have the highest ceiling. And really with the new scoring in DraftKings, you have to hit the ceiling. I've been preaching a lot of the new scoring. The new scoring has really opened up a lot of cool strategies. I think on a 2-game slate, you don't really need to worry too much about the goalie sort of being a negative, right? Usually you fade the team that you're playing a goaltender in. So I don't know if you can do that tonight. I think you really have to go for ceiling plays and consider all of your strategies and all of your options. So yeah, I think tonight you really don't need to worry too much about ownership. Go with the guys that you think are going to get the most points.
Okay, so with wingers here, out of like Mitch Marner, Vladimir Tarasenko, I mean, you have Jeff Skinner and Cam Atkinson. I mean, who's in the best spot?
I'm going to go with the Sabres again, Jeff Skinner. His price is down. Last season, he scored 40 goals on a 14.9% shooting percentage. So yeah, his price right now is very nice. I've told you already how I like the Sabres against the Blue Jackets. They've led in a lot of goals this season. Jeff Skinner, another guy like Jack Eichel. He's a guy that's going to get you a lot of shots, so you're looking at that 5+ shot bonus potentially. And again, Jeff Skinner's on that first power play with Eichel. So if you're stacking the power play, Jeff Skinner, Eichel, Sam Reinhart, Victor Olofsson, he's that new guy with Buffalo this year. I like all those guys tonight. So yeah, I think Skinner's the best option out of this group. Maybe Atkinson's a little sneaky. His price is way down there, and he's a guy where you're going to get a lot of shots. And he, again, if you're considering ownership, Atkinson out of that group is probably the lowest owned guy.
You know, my wife's from Buffalo. She's going to be thrilled when I go home and tell her that you are recommending to roster all of her favorite players.
Hey, the Sabres look good this season.
It's
early. They looked good. They looked pretty good to start the season last year, but I think things are a lot different this year. Their blue line's coming along. They have some stability in net. You know, Eichel's sort of molding into that captain, that top guy. So yeah.
And what a segue here. Let's go to the blue line crew on tonight's slate. I mean, Morgan Riley, Alex Pietrangelo, Seth Jones, Rasmus Dahlin. Where are you spending on defense?
I'll let you take a guess.
Okay.
So far this
I'm
segment.
going to go.
What are you thinking?
Oh, wait. Dahlin.
It's Dahlin.
Yes.
He's also on that first power play for the Sabres.
I knew it.
Again, stack them. If we're looking to pay up, Morgan Riley and Alex Pietrangelo are both in decent spots. Like I said, I think this game sort of has sneaky potential. The Maple Leafs have been playing in these crazy games where the pace is up, so I could see the scoring in this game being up. And Morgan Riley and Alex Pietrangelo are both power play 1 defensemen. They're quarterbacks on the power play. They have high shots plus blocks percentages. So yeah, you're going to get very high floors with those guys, and those are the type of defensemen that can hit that 3+ points bonus. So yeah, I'm cool paying up for those guys, but if I'm looking at anyone in cash games, I think Dahlin's one of the top options on the blue line.
Alrighty, and then that leaves us with netminders here. You going to go with Ullmark?
I like Ullmark in cash games. I think he's the cash guy you have to look at. And really,
wow, that would have been a Buffalo sweep, kid.
We've never seen that kind of thing, right?
No.
But anyway,
incredible.
Frederik Andersen's not again. You only have 4 goalies to choose from. I think you have to mix up your exposures. I really like Korpisalo and Binnington. Binnington, again, you just came off winning the Cup. The Blues are in a pretty good spot. I think this is an even matchup, even though the Blues are on the road. They're the defending Cup champions. Binnington not as good on the road, but I think at that price point, the Leafs should get a lot of shots on net for him, so he's got a shot at that 35+ saves bonus. And again, I could see the Blues winning this game. It's really not out of the realm of possibility. So if you're going to get Binnington at a little bit lower ownership, Korpisalo also at low ownership. Korpisalo has a high save prediction tonight on this slate. So yeah, if he's going to see a lot of shots, and if the Blue Jackets can get it together and maybe get the win at home, then Korpisalo is going to end up being the best play on this slate. So yeah, I don't mind going low on goaltenders. But yeah, I mean, you got to sort of consider all the options here.
All right, so which Sabres player is your slate-approved pick?
Eichel and Skinner, really take your pick. I think both of those guys are great plays. You really can't go wrong. Like, the Sabres are the chalk stack of the night. Maybe if I'm riding the hot hand, Austin Matthews, he's got 5 goals. through the first couple games of the season. So, the price is up, so maybe his ownership goes down a little bit, but he'll probably be up there around 20% ownership, 30% ownership on this slate. But he's the guy that has the highest ceiling, so that's sort of what you gotta consider.
No need to get weird on a 2-game slate, man. Just be basic, be chalky,
we're always trying
right?
to get weird here, man.
Okay, yeah.
That's all
I know you. I know you. Hang tight. We have you dishing out Monday Night Football Showdown picks alongside Reed T. Fowler after this Monday Night Football edition of the Pat Mayo Experience.
This is a really interesting showdown contest. The line in the game right now is San Francisco -5. That's up from 3.5 as it was posted. The steam keeps coming in on San Francisco. I like the Browns still in this game. I think if I was going to make myself a captain, it would be Odell Beckham in this game, especially if they can get him utilized out of the slot a little bit. That he's always a game breaker that you would want. It's like when Tyreek Hill is active for the Chiefs. Just put him in your captain spot, because if anyone's going to break the game and break the slate and basically insert Game Genie, it's him. Beckham is still that guy for the Browns, even if he's going to be inconsistent. You can't go into this thing thinking you're going to win, the $500,000 every single time, but you need to have that player in your captain spot if you ever are going to win it. But even if it's the backfield for the Niners or the receiving game for the Niners, I don't know who to play. No one knows who to play, so it makes it kind of intriguing.
Yeah, it makes it really intriguing. And if you are somebody who enters just a ton of lineups into these things, you can really get some interesting builds here. I was playing around a little bit with it earlier, but yeah, you mentioned it. This is by far the craziest, I would say, news slate and just all different nuances to it that you have to look at. So if you look at the 49ers coming into this game, they have 5 wide receivers playing 25+% of the snaps. They're just rotating in for their best matchups, and it's worked for them so far. Running backs, we know they have a 3-headed backfield. Jeff Wilson Jr.'s name's been popping up because of red zone touchdowns around the goal line. But they signed Jordan Matthews. I don't know if he suits up for this. I don't know if he sees the field. But that's just somebody else, if he does, and he's active come an hour and a half before. Another wide receiver that gets thrown into the mix of 20% snaps, lowering the ceiling for other guys. At the running back position, Tevin Coleman is due back, and as of an hour ago, he's expected to be active tonight. So I would expect that to make Jeff Wilson Jr. not active. I don't know what that does for the running backs, though. I don't know if it just continues to make it a 50, 25, 25 split across the board. So very interesting on that side. And then there's news on the Browns side. The Browns, their wide receivers, Antonio Callaway is going to play his first game after missing suspension the first, 4 games of the season so far for them. So that's going to push down guys like Damian Ratley, not even going to be in play. Rashad Higgins, who's coming back and healthy, probably not going to be too much in play outside of you're hoping that you get a touchdown bink at low ownership. But they're saying that Callaway is going to be limited as well because of not conditioning is what they're calling it, but just endurance, which I don't know what the difference is for a guy who came into the preseason out of shape. Maybe they're just trying to be nice in the reports there. But yeah, it's just all over the place. So usually I have a pool of, if you kind of just factor out kickers and defenses for skill position, I don't know, around 14, 15 players. Right now it's at 10, which doesn't sound like a big drop-off, but when it's a 1-game slate, that's a pretty big drop-off.
Final game of Week 5 in the NFL goes down tonight in San Francisco, and here with the skinny on who to roster in your showdown contest, Reed Fowler, Ben Zwyman. The conversation between you two was getting heated in the office earlier. Please bring that same passion right meow. Browns, Niners. Who's your captain, Reed?
It's going to be Kyle Chanel. It's going to be Jarvis Landry.
Ooh.
Give me Jarvis Landry. I like the leverage spot with this kid. He's doing, he's getting target share. I said it before,
Pretty
25%
good price too.
target share. Yeah, you get salary relief if you want to fit in Nick Chubb. If you want to fit in both of these QBs, I think you can. You got to go really low, and we'll get to that in terms of value spots here. But Jarvis Landry, he has the upside and the right leverage spot to get you those, the 3x, 4x price tag in that captain spot. So, Jarvis.
You think he catches his first touchdown of the season
I think
tonight?
he does, yeah. I
love it. I'm going to watch. Yeah. I am going to watch and keep texting you. Ben, who are you going to captain? Yeah, go ahead, roll your eyes, buddy, because I don't text you.
Well, if we're talking target share, George Kittle, right? He's pretty much the number one receiver on the 49ers. I think this is a Kittle ceiling night. At home, 60.8 yards per game, 10.13 yards per target for Kittle. I think he's due. This is just one of the spots where he's due. He's going to see 7 to 8 targets. The Niners' offensive line has played really well. They've only allowed 2 sacks through 3 games this season. I think Jimmy G is going to have all day to throw the ball to Kittle. So, yeah, he's the guy that I'm captaining. I think he pops off, and it's a Kittle night.
All right, so who do you stack with Kittle then? You're going Jimmy G, obviously, right?
Obviously. I mean, that's naturally. Like I said, the Niners aren't giving up a lot of sacks. I don't really, at home, Shanahan's had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. I think they'll try and funnel the ball to Kittle. He's going to get a ton of targets. And I think Jimmy G's in a good spot. I think they're just going to run the score up in this game. They're at home again. Like, it's sort of Jimmy G's game. I think in prime time he's really going to shine. And yeah, I mean, that's the stack you're looking at.
You're over here nodding, almost as if you're like in agreement, and you like the direction that Ben just went in.
I do. I like that as a contrarian flex because you get the quarterback without the star players right at home, favored by 5 points. I don't think it's going to be that highly owned. So if you want to stack him, especially if you're using one of his pass catchers, you have to do that. That's why Baker Mayfield for me is the guy that I want to stack with. But going back to that San Francisco side, I don't mind stacking these running backs. With Tevin Coleman coming back, yes, he's coming back off an injury. Matt Breida, both of these guys, it's sort of the pick who gets the end zone targets or the red zone targets. That's been Jeff Wilson. But I like these 2 other running backs. It's going to cost you about $12.5 around that price tag total for these 2 backs in San Francisco. I don't mind stacking them with Jarvis because of how many times the San Francisco team can score. I think they run first. They're running the ball 60+% of the time with the 49ers. And so give me those backs, if not Baker Mayfield.
You kind of teased this moments ago about value here because, wow, those guys you named off, they are not cheap.
Yeah, hello down there. Yeah, give me Ricky Seals-Jones. Ricky Seals-Jones. He's the guy that gets the end zone targets. The red.
Ben.
You got a touchdown there, and so you're trying to find value in this spot. You got to find the upside with the touchdown. You can potentially go with Kendrick Bourne as the mid-price for San Francisco. He's seen some catches, but not that much. Richie James, same thing. Like on the San Francisco side, these guys have some catches in some spots, but I like Ricky Seals-Jones.
Benjamin, take it away, please.
Yeah, I kind of like Ricky Seals-Jones too. If we're looking at value on the 49ers side, I kind of think Raheem Mostert's going to go under-owned because Tevin Coleman is coming back, and I don't know how much they're going to use Tevin Coleman, and plus he could get hurt again because that's like all he pretty much does. So yeah, I don't mind going Mostert. He's very efficient when he's getting his carries, and he doesn't really need too many snaps to get those carries. They've been sort of getting him in the game and getting him those packages. So yeah, I like him. I also like the San Fran D. We talked about how poor the Browns' offensive line is. I think Baker Mayfield could be running for his life, and Baker Mayfield's been turning the ball over a lot. So I like all those options on the 49ers. Also, Dante Pettis caught a touchdown last week. I think we're sort of seeing them get him more involved in the offense. Again, Shanahan's going to want to come out after 2 weeks and sort of go with a different look, so I could see Pettis becoming a decent value play tonight.
Pulling a page out of Ulrich's book here, just naming off every player possible.
No, he's just giving us his reasoning for all the guys.
I love you. I'm just kidding.
Ulrich,
calm down, Mary.
What Ulrich does is says, I like this guy, I like this guy, I like this guy, so you don't know who Ulrich actually truly will play.
Before I get to the next one, Ben mentioning a defense he likes. Do you like a defense? And, are you brave enough to roster a kicker tonight too?
No. I mean, Robbie Gould, you talk about the team that's favored right at home, you might want to, but if you're attacking a defense, it's got to be San Francisco, just because of the ability. They've shown now they can, well, it's Jameis Winston, but they can get turnovers, right, and score, and just their sack rate is amazing. But yeah, if you're going to go with defense, go with San Francisco. But for me personally, I don't like it.
Okay. Benny, is there someone on either one of these rosters you're absolutely fading?
I don't like Baker Mayfield. I think you can fade him tonight. He's not scoring a lot of touchdowns. They're giving the ball to Nick Chubb a lot. They're on the road. Again, San Francisco's had a lot of time to game plan for this. I think they're going to be prepared. San Fran hasn't been allowing a lot of passing yards this season, and that's really where Mayfield's gotten a lot of his points, where he can get up over 300 passing yards. So if he doesn't reach that plateau and he's not scoring a lot of touchdowns, then really he's not performing. And plus you're paying a pretty hefty price to get him on your roster. So I kind of like OBJ, but that's really only if he hits like one home run. But I don't think the volume's going to be there for Baker Mayfield, so I'm kind of fine fading him tonight.
Obviously, I know you're disagreeing with him because you're
wholeheartedly
him up.
Fade George Kittle. No, don't fade George Kittle. I think he's going to have a great game. No, it's actually, I do like Baker, but I'm obviously going with Jarvis, and I can't fit everyone in my lineup. So OBJ is the guy I'm absolutely fading. Just the leverage spot, the ratio in terms of upside, price, and just how many people are going to own him in that captain spot. I just don't like it at all. Great player, I think he's going to perform, but you're going to be up with a bunch of the other people rostering OBJ.
Because we have Antoine Murphy here on YouTube saying, just play OBJ at captain and be different somewhere else.
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can be contrarian somewhere else, but in this game, if we look at just the pieces, I mean, Antonio Callaway could be a difference, but he's also priced really high. This is his first game back from suspension, and he's already in that like mid 6K range, and that's to me that's just not value for a guy who's coming back first game after suspension.
I think Charles Whitmarsh has your back. Says OBJ has done nothing exciting this year.
Nothing.
Ben, good to have you. You're way over there on the other side of the studio.
Happy to be here, guys.
Hey. Enjoy your night, man.
You too.
Enjoy your night as well, dude. Good sitting next to you.
Desk, I like this.
Thanks to all our guests. It's lovely having you here.
Yeah, it's great. Fantastic.
It's
a great shirt, by the way.
Oh,
see you guys later.
Thank you. Oh, thanks.